I was already holding the gift, standing just a few houses away, when I realized something was terribly wrong. The balloons were there, the laughter was there. Even the music I had helped choose last year was playing in the background. Everything looked exactly the way it should, except for one thing: I wasn't supposed to be there, and the worst part, I wasn't late, I wasn't forgotten. I had been deliberately left out, I just didn't know it yet. Welcome to my YouTube channel Whisper Stories, where silence speaks. My name is Mark. I am 68 years old. At 68, you learn that betrayal doesn't always arrive with raised voices or slammed doors. Sometimes it comes quietly, like a changed date on a calendar you were never meant to see. The day I found out my son had moved his daughter's birthday party so I wouldn't be there, something inside me didn't break, it shifted. I had always believed that family was something you built, brick by brick, through sacrifice and patience. And I had done my part, more than most, I'd say, $228,000. That's what I had given over the years to support my son Daniel and his family. I never kept a record, never asked for it back, never called it a loan, because when it comes to your child, you don't count, or at least that's what I used to believe. Daniel was my only son. His mother passed away when he was just 12. I raised him alone, juggling 2 jobs, learning how to braid hair badly, cook meals decently, and be both a father and a mother at the same time. He was a good boy, quiet, thoughtful, but somewhere along the way, life hardened him. Or maybe I softened him too much. The first time he asked for money, he was 25. "Dad, it's just temporary," he said, rubbing the back of his neck the way he used to when he was nervous. "I'm trying to get things stable with Emily." Emily. I had nothing against her. She was polite enough but distant, like someone who never quite let you into the room even when you were standing right there. "Much do you need?" I asked. 5,000. I didn't hesitate. 5,000 became 10, 10 became 25, then came the house. "Dad, we found a place," Daniel said one evening, his voice filled with something I hadn't heard in a while. "Hope." "That's wonderful," I said, smiling through the phone. "What's the catch?" He hesitated. "We are short on the down payment." Of course they were. How much? $50,000. I remember sitting at my kitchen table, staring at the worn wood surface my wife and I had picked out decades ago. That table had seen birthdays, arguments, laughter, life, and now it was witnessing another decision. "All right," I said quietly. "I'll help." By the time my granddaughter Lily was born, I had already given over 100,000, but when I held her for the first time, none of that mattered. She had tiny fingers, soft as whispers, and eyes that seemed too big for her little face. "Grandpa," Emily said, placing her gently in my arms. It was the first time she had called me that, and I thought maybe things were changing. For a while they did. I visited often. Helped with diapers, bottles, late-night cries. I fixed things around the house, mowed their lawn, even paid for a new car when Daniel's broke down. "I don't know what we'd do without you, Dad," he said once. Those words stayed with me. I held onto them, longer than I should have. The cracks began: small, missed calls, unreturned messages, visits that felt shorter, colder. Maybe they're just busy, I told myself. Young family, work, stress. Life. Excuses are easy when your heart doesn't want to see the truth. Then came the invitations, or rather, the lack of them. Lily's 5th birthday. "Dad, we're keeping it small this year," Daniel said over the phone. "Just a few friends from school." "That's all right," I replied. "I'll come by another day." Didn't suggest one. The next year I found out about her party through a photo on social media. Balloons, cakes, smiling faces, and there in the corner a face I didn't recognize: Emily's parents. I stared at that picture longer than I'd like to admit. Then I closed the app. I didn't confront him. Not yet, because sometimes you need more than one piece of evidence to accept a painful truth. The final piece came a year later. Lily was turning 7. I decided to do something special. I spent weeks planning. I bought her a bicycle, pink with white ribbons on the handlebars. The kind she had pointed at in a store months ago, her eyes lighting up. "Maybe next time, Grandpa," she had said. This time was next time. I called Daniel. "Hey son, what's the plan for Lily's birthday this year?" We're doing something small again. You know how it is." "Of course," I said. "When is it?" "Saturday." "Great, I'll be there." Was a pause. "Actually, Dad, it might be better if you came by Sunday instead. Less hectic." Something in his tone shifted. I said slowly, "Sunday it is." Something didn't sit right. On Saturday afternoon I drove past the neighborhood, not intentionally, at least that's what I told myself, and there it was. The house was decorated, balloons tied to the gate. Cars lined up along the street, children's laughter spilled into the air. The party was happening. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I pulled over a few houses down, my heart pounding in a way it hadn't in years. I sat there watching, like a stranger, like someone who didn't belong. Then I saw her, Lily, running across the yard, her laughter carrying on the wind. For a moment, everything else faded. I reached for the bicycle in the back seat. Maybe, just maybe, I could still. And then I saw Daniel. He stepped outside, holding a drink, laughing with someone. Not once did he look down the street. Not once did he wonder if I might be coming. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't miscommunication. It was intentional. I sat there for a long time, long enough for the sun to dip lower in the sky, long enough for the laughter to start fading. And then I drove away. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table, the same one that had witnessed every major decision of my life, and I thought about the money, about the time, about the love. $228,000. Countless hours, a lifetime of giving, and in return, a changed date. The next morning I made a decision, not out of anger, but out of clarity. I called Daniel. "Hey Dad," he answered, his voice casual. "Good morning," I said. "How was the party yesterday?" Silence. "Then it was good." "Glad," I replied. "I drove by." Silence longer this time. "You changed the date," I said calmly. "Dad, you changed it so I wouldn't come." "It's not like that." "Then tell me what it's like," he exhaled sharply. Emily felt it would be less stressful. Less stressful, I repeated. "Yeah, different dynamics, expectations. My voice remained steady, but something beneath it hardened. "The only expectation I ever had was to be part of my granddaughter's life. It's complicated, Dad." "No," I said quietly. "It's not," was a long pause. "I've given you everything I could," I continued. "Not because I expected anything in return, but because I believed in you, in us." "I know that," he said, his voice softer now. "Do you?" I asked. "Because actions speak louder than words, son." Silence. "I'm not angry," I said finally. "But I am done," he repeated. "I won't be your safety net anymore, financially or otherwise. You have a family. It's time you stood on your own. Dad, you can't just—" "I can," I interrupted gently. "And I will." I hung up before he could respond, not out of spite, but because there was nothing left to say. The weeks that followed were quiet, painfully so. No calls, no visits, no messages. At first, the silence felt like a punishment. Then it became something else, peace. I started doing things I hadn't done in years, reading, walking, reconnecting with old friends. One afternoon, I rode past a park. Children were playing, their laughter echoing through the trees, and for a moment I felt that familiar ache, but then I remembered something. Love isn't meant to be one-sided. Months later, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find Daniel standing there. He looked different, tired, older. He said. I didn't respond immediately, just stepped aside. He walked in. "Sorry," he said, his voice breaking. "I messed up." I studied him for a moment. "Why now?" "Because I finally understand," he replied. "What you did for us, what I threw away." I nodded slowly. "Understanding is a start," I said, "but it doesn't erase what happened." "I know," he whispered. I want to fix things." I looked at him, really looked at him, not as the boy I raised, but as the man he had become. "Fixing things takes time," I said, "and effort, not just words." "I'm willing," he said quickly. I believed him, but belief isn't the same as trust. "Then we'll see," I replied. That evening after he left, I sat at my table once more. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something shift again. Not loss, not anger, something stronger. Acceptance. Moral of the story: love should never require you to lose your self-respect. Giving is a beautiful thing. But when it becomes one-sided, it stops being love and starts becoming sacrifice without value. Sometimes, the hardest lesson in life is learning when to step back, even from the people you love the most. Because respect, like love, must go both ways, and when it doesn't, you don't beg for it, you walk away with dignity intact.